afraid I'm not going to do it in time, and then you're going to be like, why didn't you start?
Did you start it?
I'm starting it now.
So that everybody's heard that. It's okay. And the puppy dogs, we have puppy dogs. Anyway, I want to thank everybody for coming here today. This is the first one. You know the drill, I've already given you that. And what I intend to do is just sort of tell you a little bit about how I and we got here to this stage today, because it's been a long and interesting journey over the last 28 years, which is why this is 9 pages long. But you see, Patty was influential. That's called don't talk about that, right? Okay. Also, this is kind of an open forum. I welcome your questions, okay? You can interrupt me, I don't care. So it's not like a formal presentation. We will have some where you have, you know, a PowerPoint and all of that, but we're going to keep this nice and loose and light. And you see, we're going to have waiter come in and out and all of that stuff. When I first got to Paris, it was 1979. I wasn't the first one to get here. Who was here before that? No? Before 1979? You? 76, so they beat me here. I was on a 2-month trek across Europe with my not then husband, and we landed in Paris a couple weeks after we started in England, and I just said, do we really have to go any further? Can't we just stay? And of course, we had already shipped stuff across the country. We had a car, we had all this stuff, and so we couldn't stay. But Paris was so much a part of my, I just completely fell madly in love with the city, like a lot of people do. I don't know. And I want to introduce you to Oke Renberg in the back. Oke, could you raise your hand? On that trip, okay, now this, because we go back, actually, I've known you longer than anyone else in this room. Because the last stop on that 2-month trek was Mykonos. And I met this guy right there, believe it or not, on Super Paradise Beach. You know what Super Paradise is? The nude beach in Mykonos, okay? I'm telling tall tales. I'm sorry, I'm telling tall tales. And then just before COVID, we discovered that we were both living here because Oke's from Sweden. So, and we lost contact for many, many years. So I just think it's amazing, actually. Anyway, that was the beginning of Paris. And so what happened was, like a lot of you, I'm sure, we kept going back to Paris, right? Every vacation, every possibility. And at one point, after moving from Tennessee to Los Angeles, we thought, why don't we just go for a year? Let's see what it would be like for a year. And I'm going to tell you, if you have moved here for a year, you're never going back, because that was 28 and a half years later. It's just, it's impossible. How did I skip that page? Amazing. But we did. We moved here in 1994, and we rented a furnished apartment in the 17th arrondissement. We put our daughter in school, and we did all those things. And I joined a variety of organizations. Weiss was one of them. I don't know if it still exists. In fact, I met with the president not long ago, and got really, really, really involved. And then my then husband and I decided it wasn't a good idea to be together anymore, and we got divorced. And this was 1997. That was a really miserable year, okay? Thank God I had Paris, because I was in love with Paris and it kept me sane. And we did split, but I had this big problem. What was I going to do? Was I going to stay in France? I didn't have the right to work. I was on a visitor visa. Who's on a visitor visa in this room? Everybody, right? I had no money because I had shot my wad during the 3 years I was there. And it was not a logical or normal or rational thing to stay, but it was not possible to leave. I mean, once you are on this side of the great pond and you look back at that other stuff going on over there, it's pretty difficult to give up this lifestyle. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I was living in Los Angeles, and I went from that to living without a car. You know what that means? Oh my God, thank God. There was just no way to go back. So I took a very, what I guess was either a stupid or a brave move to stay and figure out how I was going to support my daughter and myself. And it was challenging, to say the least. So here's what I did. I did everything I knew to do to find ways of earning money somehow. Believe it or not, I wrote the first restaurant guide to Paris in 1996 online. The very first one online on a PDF called the Leeds Good Value Guide to Paris Restaurants. And they sold really well. We're talking about 96. This was when the internet was really in its infancy, and it was like this hot thing. Wow, a guide to Paris restaurants. That was cool, right? I started a French-English conversation group called Parler Parlor that ended up running for 20 years. And that was really a lot of fun. And the reason that I did that was twofold. First, I needed the money. Second of all, I needed to find a way to learn how to speak French. And I didn't want to be in a classroom, because being in a classroom is just not my thing, like waiting around for everybody else to have their thing, no. So that actually, at least I learned how to speak French. I did not learn how to read or write that way, but at least I learned how to speak. That was good. And I did end up working for a web developer to develop their client base. So I learned how to hard code. And now we're talking, like a long time ago. So that was all really beneficial. At the same time, I was very fortunate, and I found a rental apartment. Now this is, it was really hard then. It is so much harder now. How many of you in this room have found rental apartments through us? Okay, it's really, it was harder then because there was no internet. In some ways harder, but at least they were accepting people. I got really lucky, and I rented an apartment via someone who was working at Weiss, the organization. And it was a good thing, but then 2.5 years later, they said, our daughter owns this apartment and she wants to sell it because she's getting a divorce. And I thought, oh no, I can't move out of this apartment, no way. Please give me the opportunity to buy it. So I spent 9 months trying to figure out a way to borrow money in order to buy the apartment. There were 2 banks at the time that were lending. There were British banks. They don't exist anymore. Woolwich and Abbey National. You all remember these banks, sort of? Yeah. One of them granted me a loan. I was very, very lucky. To this day, I do not know why they took a risk on me, but they did. And that was, Woolwich became BPI at one point, and the woman that ran the international lending department was an Irish woman, thanks to the Irish, who I ended up with a really good relationship, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that later. But I did end up buying the apartment in the year 2000, which I have to tell you, I didn't know anything about real estate. I mean, zero. My ex-husband was a developer, but that didn't mean I knew anything about it. And all I knew was I wasn't leaving that apartment. I was not packing up, moving somewhere else, and I had to find a way to buy it. I didn't know if the price was right. I didn't know how to manage the system. Someone recommended a notaire. It was really sort of the beginning of all of this, just by virtue of the luck that I had. But it was not about being smart, it was just about being emotional. And that apartment is still my apartment today. You probably have read stories about how I'm having structural issues in that apartment, but that apartment has really served me very well, which I'll get down to that in a minute. After I bought the apartment, though, I ended up quitting that job with the developer. So then I went into cardiac arrest because I had a mortgage and a child and no money and no job. And here I am still without working papers. So I couldn't exactly just go get a job. And I had to find other things to do. And I spent about 8 months in anxiety attack until I was recruited by International Living. Do you guys, anybody subscribe to International Living? Yeah? Used to? Are some of you, did any of you read our publications from as long ago as 2002? Yeah, really? Amazing. International Living is a publication that is targeted to retirees who want to, move abroad. And I was recruited by their founder, Bill Bonner, to open their Paris office. And that was a big stroke of luck for me, I can tell you right now. Because I worked for them for 3 years. I opened the office, and as a result of doing that, their readers came to us and said, well, you're writing about Paris, and we're really enjoying this, but we want to know how to buy property. Well, and I didn't know how to buy property. I only knew about the apartment that I had bought for myself, but I knew how to hire someone who knew how to go find property. So I hired someone to do that, and in the end, even Bill Bonner wanted us to find him properties for the company to start he wanted to experiment owning properties and renting them out short term. So I did. I went and I found properties and renovated them and then started a rental business on behalf of International Living. So that was sort of the beginning of a lot of this, believe it or not. But that lasted 3 years because at 3 years, I realized that they needed me more than I needed them. At this point, we were doing conferences, workshops. I was writing newsletters every single day for them. We had a really large audience. We had customers coming to us to find them properties. And it was a very worthwhile thing, but because I was running the whole show, I realized that I didn't need to work for anybody. I could work for myself. So I left them and started my own business. And that it was, like that's a lateral move, you might say. So the newsletter, I kept doing the newsletters. We were still, helping people. And then what was happening meanwhile? Paris properties were increasing in value like crazy. When I bought that apartment in the year 2000, it was at the bottom. And over the course of the years, we were just watching it go up and up. And those bankers, remember those bankers who took a chance? They said, you know what? Now that your property's increased in value, you could borrow more and buy investment properties. And I was like, yeah, what a good idea that is. Oh my God, give me more loans. So, these people were fantastic. And so I ended up buying 2 small properties in Paris for short-term rental. One was a 16.5 square meter studio on Rue Charlot. You know what 16.5 square meters is? It was the size of my walk-in closet, okay? I can in Los Angeles, I can tell you right now. But it's quite a jewel, and it worked because it had 3 big windows, so you never felt claustrophobic in it, and the location was great. That particular apartment, I decorated it Provençal style, in Provençal colors, and I called it Le Provençal. And it generated, I started the rental business in 2006 with that apartment, and it generated more money per square meter than any other apartment that we had in our bouquet of rental properties out of 35. It was just this killer little apartment. I also borrowed money to buy a viager in my own building. You guys know what a viager is? Yeah? Okay, a viager is a life annuity property. It's basically when you own your property, and let's say you're in your 80s or 90s, and maybe you don't have heirs, so it's a way of selling your apartment, getting a bouquet, which is like a down payment, and then the buyer, who doesn't have the rights of usage until your death, pays you every single month. So it's a great way for you to kind of get money out of your own investment as the seller of that apartment, and as the buyer, you're betting on the death of the owner. The sooner they die, the better you do. But it's a really brilliant scheme that the French have created. And I bought a viager, which was a particular situation because the viager himself was still alive, but the guy who had bought it as a viager had died. And because his relatives, his family, didn't want to take on the taxes and the debt, they let it go into the hands of the state. So I actually bought it from the state, from France. Okay, that was 2 years to do that. Then I decided I wanted to get the rights of usage from the viager, but he wasn't living in it anymore, and I had to go find him. And that took 2 years. And I went on a trek across France, and I found him in a retirement home near Bordeaux and offered him money to give me the rights of usage, and I got it. And then I renovated it, and it took 3 contractors, one that went belly up, one that I fired. I mean, it's a saga. In fact, that story itself will be a book. Count on it, okay? Count on it, because it was 5 years in the making. But the reason this property was so special was because it's in my own building. It has an elevator. Mine does not. I have 70 steps to my apartment. It has a 16 square meter terrace. No, 14 square meter terrace. And a tiny apartment, 22 square meter apartment. But the terrace in Paris is a big deal. And an even bigger deal now. I mean, it's even way more valuable now than it was. Skylights, you know, vaulted ceiling, fantastic apartment that I completely renovated. And it was a really fabulous short-term rental. And then what do you think happened? The rentals went to hell because Anne Hidalgo, my favorite person, the rental laws in Paris got really strict, and they had a team of 20 people on the streets trying to ferret out the offenders of the short-term rental, and I got controlled, and they said, "You can't do this anymore." And so I ended up selling those 2 apartments. I sold it was called the Paris Plage, by the way. That was my beach in Paris. I ended up selling those 2 apartments. I sold the Provençal to my niece. She immediately, 10 minutes, calls me up. "I'm buying your little apartment." That same niece now owns, she's a property junkie. She owns it, but she also has a studio apartment here that she's working on, and she has 2 houses in the town of Coucaron in Provence, and a whole slew of property all over the world that she's been accumulating. A monopoly maven. I call her a property junkie, but she's smart because she's accumulating a lot of property. Anyway, unfortunately, I don't have those properties anymore, but I will tell you this, the plage, the Paris Plage, which was the viager, I bought it at a very good price from the state, and then after the renovation. Hello, please turn off your phones. Mine is probably on, mine's probably gonna ring, you watch. The appraiser, I had the same appraiser. I got to know the Paris appraiser, you know, because we were doing so many loans and things like that. And he appraised the property for 3 times what I bought it for. It was amazing. I mean, it was like a total godsend. And it's a good thing because when all that was happening, believe it or not, I got audited by the IRS and the FISC at the same time. You thought my other nightmares were bad? That was a 2-year hell, and I was audited for different reasons by the 2 countries, but I had a big tax bill to pay to France because remember I didn't have the right to work here. I got out of that mess, thanks to Brian Dunhill, by the way, who gave me amazingly fabulous advice. Brian Dunhill with Dunhill Financial, you probably have seen him on our website. He's a financial advisor. He's the smartest financial advisor I've ever known. And he came to me about that same time and said, I've been referred to you because I want to build my Paris business. And I said, oh, I need you. And if you can fix me, then you can fix my clients too. And he did, because he gave me really good advice, and it's part of the reason that I sold those 2 properties. Because everything had increased in value so much, I was able to sell the properties and take out a line of credit and pay the tax bill and get clean. I am now clean, okay? 100% and more. But it was quite a challenging period, I can tell you. Now, while those properties were increasing in value, that same bank, okay, they did 2 other things. They came to me and they said, you know, it's $1.50 to the euro right now. You could get a loan to buy an apartment in New York for your daughter. I went, what a good idea that is. And I did, because it translated to 50% more. So we bought an apartment in the West Village for her to live in, which was a fantastic thing. And then they said, you know, you've been talking about Nice. Don't you want to buy something in Nice? And I was like, yes, I do. And that viager that I had basically enabled me to take a 100% mortgage to buy the apartment here. Now, I have to say that this was 2011. And I had not a clue if I was going to like Nice. Not a clue, not really. I mean, it was fun to vacation here, it was great, but what was it going to be like to live here? But I got the sense that there was a small American community, but it wasn't very united. It was very disjointed. And I also felt that there was an opportunity here because North Americans have always been very Paris-centric. You know, they just only thought about Paris. And they really didn't think about the rest of France all that much. Maybe Provence, but I never heard much about the Riviera. And the idea of being able to expand our business, it was something I wanted to do, but I knew that the only way to do that was to actually be on the ground. Yeah, because he comes in now. It's okay, we'll deal. Are you our doorman? Yeah. At any rate, so in 2011, I got here and I did spend 3 years looking for an apartment here. I didn't have a me. It was a real problem. I couldn't find someone who could actually go out and help me find a property or teach me more about the city and the neighborhoods. And I got very Old Town centric. I just decided that I had to have an apartment in Old Town, and that was it. Forget it. I wasn't going anywhere else, and I couldn't find anything in Old Town. You know, Old Town's tough. Old Town's tough because the streets are narrow, so you don't get a lot of light. You know, if you don't have a good view, you could be over a bar, and it would be really noisy. And because the buildings are old, they're not all well kept, and some of the stairs are really steep. And I did actually find an apartment that I got very close to signing on, and it was at Place du Palais, right in front of the Palais de Justice. Yes. And it had a gorgeous view of the Palais, and it had a beautiful view of what used to be a fountain. They took that fountain away.
It was always broken.
But yes, but it was
a problem. They replaced it with the tree thing. There's a big art.
Right, I know. There's some crazy structure there now. Right, but what I realized when I had 3 contractors come to give me estimates to renovate it, nobody wanted to go up the stairs. Nobody wanted to go up the stairwell. And in the middle of the night, I had this epiphany. I can't buy that apartment. I'm never going to rent it. No one's going to want to come up the stairs. So I canceled the sale and I started looking again. When I found this apartment Now on Rue Masséna, which is where I am now, in the Carré-d'Or, I didn't know anything about the area, and I thought, like, why am I doing this? This is crazy. I now realize it was the smartest thing I could have done, and I got relatively lucky. And I'll say relatively lucky because this was one of the big cross-outs, not to talk about, but I can't help myself. No, because you've all read, if you read the newsletters, you know the story about my crazy Sandy Broyo toilet, right? Everybody knows about my crazy toilet? I'm going to make it brief, okay? I'm going to make it brief. I didn't know, it was not disclosed. I had to sue the seller. I won the case. That was in 2012, okay? I am now on my 4th lawsuit related to the toilet. Okay? And I still have the Sandy Broyer. I still don't have a real toilet. And I still love the apartment. And that's all I'm going to say. Anyway, getting started in Nice was, you know, I would rent the apartment mostly, come from time to time. But every time I came, I wanted to stay longer. And so I started staying longer. And then, of course, there was the attack on the prom. Remember on July 14th? And my tenants canceled that summer. And so I figured, well, if they're not coming, I'm going to come. And so I came for the summer. Once that happened, no looking back. I come every summer now for the whole summer. I'm now spending more than 6 months a year here, at least, going back and forth. It's like it's perfect. And clearly what I found was, like you all, that the more I was here, more time I wanted to spend here, and how wonderful a place this is. But I have to tell you that it's taken all these years to really establish the business side of it, because it started with writing about it, which a lot of you already know, and then it started with people like Wanda Pinarello. Say hello. Wanda. Wanda is a real estate agent with Orpi. She worked with us on a couple of clients, and because I didn't have a team and staff here, she and I worked together to help find properties. So she really was. You were my first search consultant. Then Ella happened. Ella happened. Ella stalked me. She flew to Paris to have lunch with me. I couldn't believe that. But she did. This is before Simone, okay? Before Simone. She did. And Ella was only living here half a year, not even. But I said, Ella, you have to be here. You're going to do such a great job. I knew she would do a good job. So she might have stalked me, but I really pursued her. And she's fantastic. And little by little, the team built. Patty used to live in Paris. Then she went to Nîmes. Then now she's here, okay, full time. Patty's been working with us for 8 years. I hired her the day after she arrived in Paris at lunch, and I'm sure she has regretted it ever since. Because I work her to death. That's for sure. And
but as Jim said, I have the afternoon off today.
Oh yeah, Jim thinks. And he's just got afternoon off. Are you joking? No way. So let's see. We're missing a couple of our staff people. Jennifer Perrette.
She's stuck in traffic.
Jennifer's stuck in traffic.
So like an hour long.
Right. Okay, Jennifer Perrette. Who's okay? And Ella and Jennifer work very closely with Wanda and all the other agents, not just Wanda. Sorry, Wanda. And they do proper searches for purchase. We have a couple of people who are doing the searches for rentals, Kathy Grassi and Delia Dobrianu, who are not here. Kathy's in the States, I think, right now, right? And Delia, where's Delia? We don't know. Okay. And then Ronnie Sexton, who's over here guarding the door. Ronnie is our official concierge, and Ronnie manages and books a whole variety of short and medium-term apartments. And thank God for Ronnie, because she takes care of our clients and our fractionals and all that other stuff. And so the team here is, I cannot say enough, I'm sorry, I can't say enough wonderful things about all of you, because the team in Paris is really great, but they're not as, what's the word?
Everybody's more independent.
They're more independent. Here, the team really works together very, very well to accomplish a lot of things, and they're amazing. Okay, and maybe part of it is Nice because of just the way the community is.
Similar as we've talked about the American community.
Exactly.
In Paris, they're more independent.
Yes, it's true.
It's a more cohesive community.
Right. I'm going to repeat this for the recording, and that is that Patty says that the community in Paris, it's huge. Okay, there's a hundred, maybe 100,000 of Americans, but they are more disjointed. There's lots of ways of getting to know them. There are a lot of concentric circles, but they're not quite as closely knit as this. We could not have done this even 5 years ago. No, the community has really, really, really grown thanks to all of you, and thanks to the staff and everything that we've all done to make this happen, which was part of my goal. So it gives me a tremendous amount of pleasure to see this. And then as a result of all this, we've done several conferences. We did a conference in 2013, a 3-day conference. Did any of you attend that conference? No, I don't think so. But we waited another 8 years, and we ran one in 2021 and 2022, a 3-day conference with an add-on tour. And we don't know if we're going to do another one, at least not this year, because I'm stuck in structural issues and lawsuits with toilets and God only knows what else. Yeah. But I also would like to say that Nice itself has really grown up. I have really watched it, right? Can you believe the things that have happened? Okay, you've been here?
Since 2015.
Okay, and I mean, the Paillon, that's new, right? What else is new? The trams. The trams.
We've been here since 2001. We met Wanda, who sold us our apartment, and then we quickly adopted her.
And this is completely coincidental, by the way.
Completely coincidental.
Yeah.
And we've seen nothing but good things happen thanks to Monsieur Strozzi. So
Exactly.
anybody that you vote for him.
No joke. In fact, there was something happened with him not long ago where they were raiding his office. Did you all see this? I am sure it was Anne Hidalgo because she's jealous. Certainly. She has enough enemies? He has enough enemies? Well, any politician has friends and enemies, right?
Long-term lease was. At least we see where our tax money's going.
You know what? What's happened to this town in the last 10 years that I've been here is just unbelievable, and it's just getting better and better. And by the way, today's French Property Insider newsletter touts that Nice is the only city out of all the major cities in France where property prices have gone up and they've gone down everywhere else. So it's got to be partly due to that, right? Right. So in the east, the greening of the streets, amazing, right? Rue de la Bouffe is in the works. Maréchal Joffre is like so pretty, I can't believe it. It's incredible.
They finally finished
Liberté. Well, that becomes Rue de la Bouffe, and they're still working on it. Place Grimaldi with the big red letters that say Grimaldi. How cute is that? You know, the port's going to get worked on. The Promenade de Paillon is being extended. I mean, we have an IKEA. I mean, it just goes on and on. It's fantastic. And they were what? UNESCO World Heritage Site? That's a big deal. So we have, you know, I mean, is anybody in here not happy with Nice? Listen to that. Nobody says no. Good. The other thing that we started doing, by the way, is these fractional ownership properties. Where's Bonnie and Gary? Okay, this blows my mind. You come here, you rent an apartment, and then they end up buying a fraction in one of our fractionals, right? And happy.
We're there right now.
They're right now. So, do you guys know what fractional ownership is? Yeah? It's not timeshare. It's not timeshare because with timeshare you only own the time, you don't actually own the property. In this case, you actually own a share of the property. I started developing these in 2008. But because 2008 was the financial crisis, remember that? And everybody lost their money. So there was a real hiatus, and then I picked it up again many years later. But in the last few years, we have developed, how many in Paris? 4. 4 in Paris.
Counting it.
4 in Paris. 4 fractional ownership properties in Paris. We have 2 here in Nice now. We have 1 in Villefranche-sur-Mer, and we're working on 1 in Cap Ferrat. And the way they work is there are 13 4-weeks a year. And there's 2 weeks, and then 6 months later, 2 weeks, and it rotates forward by 10 weeks so that every year you get 2 completely different seasons, and over the course of 13 years, your usage rotates fully. And these properties, our properties have to be jewels. They have to be perfect. We manage them. We take care of them. Ronnie's our go-to person here on the ground. And the Palais, it's called Le Palais du Soleil. The one on the corner of Rue Massenet and Rue de France is our new one here where Gary and Bonnie are staying. I'm very, very jealous. You know that. Because that apartment should have been mine. No, I'm really serious. You know, I had my staff out looking for the perfect fractional property. When I walked into it, I said, I'll take it. It had not been lived in 30 years. It was complete, it was disgusting. And we ended up taking down every single wall and reconfiguring what was a 1-bedroom to a 2-bedroom, 2-bath. And Martine Di Matteo, our designer from Paris, came in to do it. We spent almost as much on the renovation as it cost to buy, which shows, right? Because it's really great. But what Martine kept saying, this is supposed to be your apartment. This just looks like your apartment. And I was like, well, too late now. We sold the shares of that apartment in 5 days. All the shares in 5 days. It was just sort of an amazing thing, but it's very dear to my heart. And now we're going to have one at the end of the year in Cap Ferrat, right at the port. But we do have shares right now in it's a large studio directly on the promenade, on the ground level with a private garden in front. It's called Le Jardin de la Promenade. It's not expensive. It's a beautiful apartment. It's a beautiful location. So if you know of anyone who's interested, we do have shares available. So I guess your question to me might be, how do I feel about Paris versus Nice? No? You don't care? No, but you know, I'll tell you what it is. It's like having 2 lovers.
Exactly.
Because no one person can satisfy everything. I've been here a long time. It's really kind of a perfect situation to have both cities because Paris is the mecca of culture. We know this, right? I mean, there's a million things to do. There's not enough time in any one day to do it all. But it's gray, and it's cold, and it's rainy, and it's busy, and it's noisy, and there's Anne Hidalgo, and right now there's a lot of garbage. And the strikes, and I live very close to where all the manifestations are going on and all of that stuff. And so it's a funny thing, though. When I'm in Paris, all I think about is Nice. And when I'm in Nice, I don't think about Paris. It's this really weird thing. I'm just so happy to be here and in the sunshine and much more relaxed, because instead of taking 30 to 45 minutes to go across town, it takes 10. And so you spend a lot less time, dealing with transportation. And believe it or not, I prefer to fly from here to the US than from Paris, even though I have to go through Charles de Gaulle and change planes, because this airport is so much better. Oh my God. Okay, it is so much easier to get on the tram, go to the airport, and when you go through Charles de Gaulle on Air France, you go from Terminal 2E to 2F. You just walk from one to the other. It's a piece of cake. So very often, if I'm flying to the States, I come to here first. Believe it or not.
Or to Amsterdam, it's very easy from here, and then connect.
And then connect, exactly. All of those things. So, we're just blessed. And I guess that's one of the other things is, the ability to live without a car. I very often get asked on our consultations about, people who want to live outside of Nice. They always think about all the other enclaves. And I try to talk them out of that, quite honestly, because you're always a step away from having access to everything. And so, especially if you're single, if you have a family and a car, maybe so, but if you're single and you really want to just enjoy life all day long, if you're in this hub, you've got everything. And you can always go visit everything else, right?
And you can always rent a car.
And you can always rent a car. And there's 3 places to rent the car. There's, the train station, there's Center City, and then there's the airport. So there's always that available if you want to rent a car.
And there's a great application called Get Around. It's like Airbnb, but it's for cars.
Oh,
And picked up a
I didn't
Fiat
know.
Fido. Yeah, it's
Get
called
Around. Okay.
It's great. And you're fully insured.
Is that European based? Because I use Turu in the States, and it's Airbnb for
I
cars.
discovered it here in France.
Okay. Because I rented a Fiat 500 convertible in Orlando for like 10 days.
It was great.
Okay,
And
I'm
I
glad
rented
to
a
know
moving-
that.
I even rented a moving truck
Yeah.
for doing boxes.
Okay, I'll have to look for that because it was great in the States.
So
I delivered it.
I'm at the end of 9 pages, but there is one thing I want to do, and that is for all of you, besides this kind of an event, ways for you to meet other people, okay? Do you know Democrats Abroad? Ronnie.
Oh,
Ronnie is running for president of...
Well, I was just elected chair of Democrats Abroad France Riviera chapter.
Yay!
I'm going to communicate about that soon because I think we're underdeveloped. I'm coming from Brazil. I spent 4 years as chair of Brazil, but I've been in France for 20 years. But I am running, the national elections for Democrats Abroad France are going on right now. I'm running for one of the 9 DPCA voting things. That's to do the national stuff. And they might have, if you're active, they would have sent you an email probably yesterday. You can vote online up until the end of the month, but then the actual election's at the American Church on April 1st. But if you want to vote online, if you're not in Paris, then do it now. I appreciate your support.
Okay, great. Okay, and Internations, that's another one, right?
Love it.
Okay, what else? Ella, you belong to several organizations. What are they?
Yes, the American Club of the Riviera, the Professional Women's Network, the Riviera, the International Women's Club of the Riviera, the Riviera Business Club.
Oh my gosh, wait a minute. Let's do this one at a time. Because I want to make sure that the recording hears it. The
American Club
about the Riviera, okay.
There is the International Women's Club of the Riviera.
International Women's Club of the Riviera.
There is the Riviera Business Club.
Riviera Business Club.
There is Professional Women's Network.
Professional Women's Network.
Soon there will be the Junior League of La Côte d'Azur.
The Junior League of the Côte d'Azur.
France's first chapter of the Junior League, and for Americans that know that this is a volunteer organization, it's been a little bit of a challenge because we live in a socially democratic country, so we don't have to do the diaper drives or the bake sales that because there's no, there's limited health care and social safety nets there. But we can still get involved in our communities, whether it's cleaning the beach or something else.
Okay, so it's just ways for you guys to meet the rest of you,
Yes.
you know?
And then in Saturday, June 3rd, and Adrian will be including this soon.
All right,
Saturday, June 3rd, we're going to have, again,
meet the authors.
And we are working on that panel of authors. And it should be very interesting.
Right, yeah, definitely come to that. Mark that on your calendar. June 3rd, Saturday, June 3rd. I think at 3 o'clock also.
3 o'clock also.
Okay,
at La
great.
Band. Salsa lessons afterwards. Yes, by Wanda Birkin.
Uh-huh.
I know there's a meetup email that I get. Is that Mike Cahoon's list maybe, or that has like a morning coffee?
Morning
I haven't
coffee.
been, but every
There's a coffee
Sunday.
hour on Sunday between 10 and noon. It's over
I have
at
to
the,
go
is it
sometime.
at the Snug?
Okay.
It's not the it's at the distillery or something.
Yeah, distillery.
In the old town.
Okay, great. And on that note, I've done my 9 pages. Anybody have any questions? Sure.
I don't have a question, I just want to say there's also a meetup, I went last night, there's one, Brew Dog Brewery, every Wednesday night, it's Wednesday and Saturday nights.
Well, there you go.
And
Okay.
usually there's like third best night, there's probably best.
Okay, so let me repeat. It's at the Brew Dog.
The Brew Dog Brewery, which is right by the carousel, you know.
Right on the curve. Right on the curve.
Right on the curve, exactly.
The Brew Dog.
And it starts at 7:30.
7:30. What day? What day?
Wednesdays.
Wednesdays.
Saturdays.
And Saturdays.
Show up and meet people from
Okay.
different countries, and they will speak French. I went to another one, they always spoke English, but people there will speak French with you. So.
Okay.
Wednesday's all you can eat Wednesday, if I remember.
All you can eat Wednesday.
The other thing, there are French-English conversation groups here that are very helpful. Adrian and I are huge proponents of everyone learning the language. It enhances your experience in your adopted country because we are immigrants. We use the fancy term expat, but we're immigrants. Let's be respectful and learn the language. And there is a good friend of ours, Paul Rouquier, who's French. He's been holding
Oh, yeah, the conversation groups with Paul Rouquier.
Every Friday at 2:30 in Mesa, Missouri.
Okay.
and then there's another one at the hall at Holy Trinity, also on Fridays by Catherine. And so there's plenty of opportunity to learn the language.
Okay, that's good. And
Not just on the pillow for those of us that are married. Or
well, and I'm taking some French lessons right now because I'm preparing for my test for citizenship. Yes, after all these years, oh my God.
Yeah.
You had a question.
Well, because in your story, I wasn't sure at what point, what was the event that you got your carte séjour to work in France? Because I know you were working for Living.
International Living.
Did that enable you to get the carte séjour for working, or what?
No.
Did that happen?
No. International Living is an Irish company, so I was working for an Irish company. No, I renewed my carte de séjour every single year for 10 years until I got a carte de résident. When I got the carte de résident, that made me I could legally work, but that's when I created my first French company. And for anyone who thinks of starting a French company, you do not want to do this. It's insanely administrative, expensive, and difficult.
Adrian, I'm just curious of everyone here, how many here live here full-time versus how many of the people here are just here
Well, that's a good
part-time?
question, Nancy. How many are here full-time? Whoa! Almost everybody in the room.
Okay.
That's really cool.
Okay, put up the hands for the part-time.
Who's part-time?
Okay. Oh, well, it's interesting, yeah.
Yeah, but the part-timers become full-timers.
Well, I know, but I'm just saying at this point in their
Right.
lives, yeah.
Right. And I am often asked if I would move, over completely.
Well, I mean, full-time in France. I mean,
Yeah,
I consider you
yeah.
full-time.
No, I understand. I don't think that I would ever become full-time because I don't need to. I've got both places. I don't have to choose. Fortunately, I can have them both. I don't have to choose one lover or the other. Tiger.
Do you have any experience with the self-employment visa? Is that what you did before you had a...
So, well, I know it's very complicated. I have a company with a partner, the French agency, which has to be licensed. And I cannot personally be licensed for real estate because I wasn't schooled in France. I didn't work as an executive in a real estate agency. There's a whole list of criteria. But my partner has the license, and he's French. Okay, his name is Mathieu Duclos, which he's just a silent partner there. But I have to work as an agent commercial, as a profession libérale. I actually have to have separate status myself. So it becomes really convoluted and crazy.
Do you know anything about the self-employment visa?
Not really.
Daniel Tostado.
But yes, but we know people who do know about it. And we recommend an immigration attorney named Daniel Tostado. He's on our website under, there's a separate rubric. I've lost my English. Category, menu item. Tab, menu item. In French, it's just a rubric. It makes sense. For immigration. And he's very good. And he's helping me do my citizenship, as a matter of fact.
I'm trying to switch to the artist visa again now that COVID's, well, not over, but less bad. And it seems like this new online thing, it seems more doable. Like I don't feel like I have to jump through as many
Hoops.
as I did.
The artist
before.
visa. Yeah. I do know this. The American passport is considered the golden visa. That's how they feel about it. Yeah. And so they're a lot more liberal and I assume that's true for Canadians as well. I say American, but I think it's really North American. Yeah, exactly.
I have an interesting question.
Yes, sir.
I post on my Facebook, and I don't know if this was.
Do you all know John?
Hello.
Okay, this is John Garland Jones. He's our client. He's a singer. He and I have done 2 House Hunters shows together, and he is our media tech person today too. Thank you. And you have a question.
Well, I thought it was interesting because I haven't researched it at all, but on TikTok, assuming what they said is correct, that Canada has just started welcoming people, like especially like LGBT, trans, as I don't know if you'd call it refugee from the U.S. into Canada. They've just opened that up. Again, I haven't looked into it, but assuming what TikTok said was true that I posted on my Facebook, I'm wondering if France might ever do something
like that.
I'm like, if Canada's done it as like a kind of a precedence.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Because
But there is a huge,
huge.
there's a huge exodus out of the United States for those of you who don't know. And Canada's, of course, Canada's first on the list. Canada's highest on the list since it's so close and makes so. And of course, it has national, health care, and a few good things going on. Every single day, everybody I talk to says, "Get me out." Anybody from the States, they say, "Get me out of here." It's really unbelievable.
Just saying.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of people who are just scared.
Scared.
To live there at this point.
Yeah. Patty and I were researching this morning the number of mass shootings in the last year in the United States. It's beyond imagination.
January 1, unfrickin' believable.
Yes.
Almost one a day.
Yeah.
And just recently.
Yes. Yes. It's
That's why I say I choose to live in a country that has more baguettes than people, rather than a country that has more
guns than people. What can I say?
I wanted to just mention, I just got my Nice Musée de Nice pass.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Let me-
all you have to do is jusqu'à the domicile and any of the municipal museums.
Right, like the
Matisse.
Messina.
The Nice, the Nice
Chicago,
Pass.
because it's a private-
Right, no, but the one right down the street.
Yeah, and it's so great, this kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, I got mine too.
Sure, Pam.
Thank you so much. I feel like you were my midwife for helping me move here.
No one's ever called me a midwife before.
I fell in love with France in '71 when I lived here as a child, and I had to come back when we had to leave in '73. But
Pay on the way out. And I'll see you Saturday night. Bye. Thank you for coming.
but
Yeah, keep going.
my question for you is, if you have, do you have on your website suggestions about mutuelle?
No, but we do have an insurance agency. Is it on the site, Patty? Is Allianz on? We have, yes. We have on the website is our insurance company that we work with is Allianz. Bye, Ronnie. Thanks. Yeah, it's on the site for an insurance company, and they can help you with the mutuelle. Mm-hmm.
On the website,
But-
there's a menu, and go to partners, and you'll find
It-
a lot
no,
of
but
the
there's
people
this-
we've mentioned today.
Oh, that's true. That's true. But they're in other places as well.
Yeah.
Right. Karen.
I read something in one of your newsletters that recently that concerned me. It happened when within 5 years, you could apply for a longer term car security.
Yes, it's true.
And then if you're over 65, you did not have to take the
Guess what? That's old information.
change. Oh my God.
Yeah, uh-huh. So basically, you can apply for a carte de résident after having been here 5 years, but for whatever reason, they would not give it to me all those years, and I had to keep doing it. So what they say legally and what one clerk might tell you could be two different things. But it used to be that if you were over the age, I think, of 65, you didn't have to take the test, but they've changed that.
No, it's still true. There's an exemption if you're over 65 for the language.
But for the carte de résident, not for
Resident,
citizenship.
Not for citizenship.
But for the card.
For carte de résident, right, but not for citizenship.
And does the carte de residence allow you to work?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay, so if I've been here for 5 years,
you can apply for the carte de
then that would
résident.
let me work,
Yes,
even if I don't get, or so the artist visa.
you wouldn't need the artist
You would
visa.
have to do
So my 5 years is June 6th.
It's A2, it's only A2.
But you have to do the language test.
I would have to learn real quick.
Get old.
Or get old.
Get old.
Learn or get old, right, okay.
You have to have, if you're under 65, then I think you have to be an A2 in French, and you do also have to show proof that you filed your taxes for all those years.
Of course.
Well,
Even if it's like zero-ish.
Yep, gotta
You have to file even if your filing is zero.
yeah,
Yeah.
no one's on the radar.
Any other questions?
Well,
Jim?
Well, you told about, switching from, selling short-term rentals in Paris to selling apartments in Paris to fractionals. Do you have something else on the horizon that you're looking at?
Retirement. And they're going, no,
I
no.
can't imagine you retiring.
Me either.
Okay, so
Don't forget the new YouTube channel.
Oh, right. We have a new if you saw that we have a new YouTube channel, so that like this will be uploaded to YouTube, so you'll be able to watch it. I promised myself I'd be retired at the age of 70, and I turned 70 last October. So you see how far I've gotten with that promise. Yeah, huh? Not going to happen. I mean, as long as,
just looking forward to
huh? What did she say? What did you say?
Well, Adrian, you already live where everybody comes to retire, so
It's-
that's, it's a little different, yeah.
Listen, as long as
I get it.
people still want us to do what we do, we'll continue to do it.
And as long as you have Patty.
I suppose, yeah.
Everybody needs a patty.
Everybody needs a patty.
And Simone will not let you retire because she's the company mascot.
Yeah, that's Ella going, no. Okay, so that's it? One more?
I just have one takeaway from this presentation, which was very good. I'm so glad it's happening in these. And my takeaway is this. When you said in the early part of your speech, you knew nothing about real estate.
No, I
remember
didn't.
that. And that wasn't really so long ago. It kind of reminds me of the Asian lady who won the Oscars recently. I forgot her name.
Michelle Yeoh.
Yeah, she's great. And, she's, it's like, what did she say? Don't ever say you're beyond your prime or something.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like your story is like, because you were already mother and had worked and stuff, and then you get in this whole new thing, So I'd say it's an inspiration.
Oh, thank you.
I heard Vera Wang, I heard, didn't design her first dress until she was 40. I don't know if that's true.
Okay, well, let's hear it.
But,
It's just, you just have to keep putting one foot in front of the other, okay? And you have to enjoy what you do, and you have to do the things that you're good at doing, right? And that's because then you get pleasure out of it, right? And survival was the mother of necessity. Is that it? Survival. It was survival, is what it was about.
it's like the Texas Lottery slogan. You can't win if you don't play.
That's right. You can't win if you don't play. It's the truth. So get out there and do your thing. And even if you're retired, there's plenty of stuff to discover here. That's for sure. Right? Get busy. Sandy.
Real quick, what's your YouTube channel called? The name of it?
At Adrian Leeds Group.
Oh, okay, great.
YouTube.com/@Adrian Leeds Group. And there's links on our website to it. Yeah, we just finally got all the videos uploaded. And there's a slew of them. I mean, because we've been accumulating them over the years. All the webinars, the past webinars, speaking engagements, Après Midi, they're all there. You could, if you get bored at night and you can't find anything on Netflix or Amazon, go to YouTube. There's all sorts of stuff. And, of course, there's a lot of really good, thank you, Pam. There's a lot of really good information about, about property. Simone. Oh, God. She's very well dressed today, as usual. Any other questions? Sure.
Just wondering if there's anybody here who either invests or trades in financial markets?
In the room?
Yeah.
I don't know. Anybody? No?
Or anybody who files their own French tax return online?
Yeah, I've done that.
I do not recommend doing that. If last week we had, when we got Après Midi on March 11th, Après Midi March 11th, Jonathan Hadida, who's a tax attorney, spoke at Après Midi in Paris, and we recorded it. He is insanely entertaining. It's an hour and 45 minutes long, but it's all about Americans paying taxes in France or not. And I highly recommend watching that.
No, I did see that.
You did see it, yeah. And you found out that the guy, William Jordan, who's a retired diplomat, who admitted to doing his own tax return, screwed up, okay, for that very reason, because he did his own tax return. So I don't recommend it.
And that's on your YouTube?
Yeah, it's on the YouTube. Yeah, it's really great. We've all been through this stuff, so you can depend on all of us to help you. But I would caution you about crowdsourcing online, because you can get a lot of bad information online from the wrong people. Yeah, you don't want to crowdsource. The professionals that we recommend are tested, tried, and true, and I back up. That's the point. They're professionals. They're not just wannabes.
And you're professionals dealing with Canadian taxes?
Yeah, of course.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's American
And Canadian,
okay,
yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah. It's interesting, though, because the U.S. and France they both have tax treaties. Canada and U.S. both have tax treaties with France, but according to Jonathan, the U.S. is better than the one from Canada.
And on visitor's visa, you still have to file taxes?
Yeah.
You still have to file?
Okay, I'm going to say something about this, and I know I'm on camera, but I'm not a CPA, so I can say things they can't say. Okay? If you live in France more than 183 days, then you're sort of technically tax resident here. But even that definition is not really clear because some people don't live 183 days anywhere. At this point, in our lives, we're all over the world, right? But it's wherever you consider home and you can prove that. That's to the tax authorities. Now, if you come here on a visitor visa, and this is just the reality, there's the law and then there's the reality. The law, of course, says that you're supposed to turn in a tax return because you've been here more than 183 days. But the tax authorities don't even know you're here. That's immigration. Immigration is immigration. Tax is tax. Those fonctionnaires, they don't cross over. And they don't care because you're wasting their time by turning in a tax return that has a zero return that they're never going to get anything out of anyway. So it's not that I'm telling you to not necessarily follow the law. It's just that relax. Enjoy your first year. Don't worry about it so much because you can file them in what's the term? In arrears.
Because I have to do a couple of years I haven't done. But I
Right.
want to file because if I want to do my 5-year residence, I'll have
That's
to go file.
exactly right. So you can go a couple of years, and then if you want to turn it in, then you do.
Unless you're making a lot of money, and then you probably should.
Well, but how are you earning it? If you're earning it in France, okay, then you would end up, of course you would turn in a tax return. That's a whole different story. Yeah.
But if your income is zero in France, and I'm making some money off investments in Canada, I'm paying Canadian taxes.
Exactly.
Yes.
But you still have to file and you will owe nothing in France.
Oh,
No,
okay.
not no.
No.
It stays in both countries. What's earned in Canada stays in Canada.
That's what I'm saying, she
right.
owes nothing in France.
That's right. It's just reported.
Right, it's
Bye,
just,
thank
it's
you.
the same if it's retirement
Right.
or social security.
I tell you what, though, do not sleep over this stuff. Okay? Do not worry about it. Just call a professional and get the answer.
Well, Adrian, what happened with my tax situation, because I didn't file taxes, because I was like, it was all retirement and social security, and I'm under the radar, and when I lived in Paris, I never got a tax de habitation bill. And so when I moved to Nice, my first apartment in Nice, we started talking about tax de habitation, and my agent said, I said, well, I don't have tax status. And she said, okay, I'll register you with the tax office. And I'm like, okay. So I'm waiting for this tax de habitation to come. Doesn't come. I'm moved to another apartment. I'm thinking, I'm sweet. Okay, one day I go on my French CIC account and there's a freeze on 2,400 and something euros, leaving my balance at 525 euros and 75 cents. And then
You remember that amount?
Yeah, I remember because it's interesting. So that same day, I get this official thing from the IMPO saying, here's your tax de habitation. It's 3,000 and something.
Wow.
And there's a late fee. And I am freaking, So I'm like, I'm going to go to the tax office.
Mm-hmm.
So I take my bill, I talk to Patty, she goes, well, it's a slippery slope because you haven't filed, and I'm like, well, I'm going to go, it's going to really push my language. So I go on this Monday morning at 8:15, it opens at 8:30, it's the first Monday after a 4-day weekend, I'm number 96 in line, I'm like, no, coming back. So I come back 3 days later, I'm number 23. So I go in, and I get in a cubicle with this woman, and I said, I want to contest this tax de habitation. She goes, have you filed taxes? I'm like, no, I'm in the process. Not really, but I said that. And she goes, no problem. She goes, for 20 and 21. She pulls the form. She highlights, put in here, put in here, put your name here, here. Okay, now 2021, put in here, put in here. And I mean, she basically did my taxes for me.
Great.
And then she said, okay, well, you still owe $700 because we could only freeze. By law, they can't bring your account down to zero. They have to leave 525 euros and 75 cents. I swear to God, I looked it up. And she goes, so you owe another 700. If you pay it today, we'll waive the late.
Wow.
And so
You
there I
did?
am with the credit card, and I go upstairs, and somebody else stamping, and blah, 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 and I've waived that. And so they said, complete these forms, bring them back, and then we'll see about contesting your tax habitation. So I go home, I'm filling them out, I bring them back, you dump them in the box, and you're like, well, there it goes.
Okay, but meanwhile, you don't have to pay the tax d'habitation now because you're resident
right,
here.
But this was from,
Before.
4 weeks later, I get a frickin' check in the mail for 1,500 euros reimbursement because they overcharged me on my tax habitation.
So you made money on the deal?
Well, no, because they had frozen and taken, but they reimbursed me. And I had 2 years of my taxes filed, thanks to that lovely woman at
Well, there
the
you go.
info
I
office.
got mine reimbursed the year that I paid it that I didn't know that I didn't have to, and then once I did my taxes, they not only
Right,
waived
I
that
mean,
one, but they
so-
reimbursed the one from the year before.
I mean, it was great because I went into this cubicle and I was sitting with the woman and I said, do you speak English? She goes, yes, but not when it comes to taxes. And she goes, do you speak French? I said, yes, but not when it
Comes to taxes.
And we said, okay, we'll figure it out.
It's a great
And
story.
it was like amazing. Because, I mean, and she's using whiteout on stuff and everything.
Thank you for coming.
So I would just say, don't be afraid to go to the tax office.
No, don't be afraid.
Because,
Yeah, don't be afraid.
people talk about the service here, but I can't even imagine in the States going to an IRS and them filling out the form for you.
No way they wouldn't happen.
Amazing.
Nancy,
Right.
I would just ask if you can remember that woman's name, speak it up in her
Well, no,
office.
what happened was, I went back like a day or two later because I had a question about whether to include as income what I draw out of my retirement IRA, because in the States that counts as income, but I didn't know here she wasn't there. And so I went
No,
to
but they
her grumpy colleague who said, yes. And then he said, oh, you got to fill out the forms again because you used whiteout. I thought, well, she used whiteout. But anyway, but it was all fine. It all worked out in the end. But it was
Too
lovely.
funny.
Before we finish up, I just wanted to kind of, in case some people might have seen on my Facebook, but I got a text message. I didn't know this was a thing, and it looked very legit that I owed.
The TikTok thing?
No, this is something I actually got a text message saying that I owed for. I guess it was like a parking violation. I mean, not a parking, but like a. It didn't say, but anyway, it was some sort of a fine.
Fine.
A fine that I got. So, and it looked very official. And then I went to the website, and it was an exact copy of the real website. But I went and like, if you look at the HTTP, if it doesn't have an S, then that means it's not secure.
Yeah, be careful.
And it wants you to pay.
Be careful.
And it asks you for your information. So anyway, just be on the lookout. If you get something that says you have a text says you have a fine, don't.
Okay, don't do it.
It's not
Yeah.
real.
Just because I'd never heard.
Do you have another question?
Well, I was just gonna say, because the guy asked about doing my own taxes, and I've been doing my own taxes in France for many years, but I always, before I submit it, and you can actually submit it online, but have so many hours, I go to the Hotel Impo, always in the third arrondissement, where I live in Saint Martin, and I always meet with somebody, and I had some complicated CDA investments, Loi Borloo, to reduce taxes, and they always, it was amazing. And even when I was living in Brazil, I made an appointment with a phone call to talk to the guy over the phone, and he would look at my return, and and it was just like you described. So I understand what you're saying. Don't do it yourself.
Well, no, but if you're at the tax office, it doesn't get better than that.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay,
That's
so-
It's that fear of the language too. Even though my French is pretty good, when I'm dealing with medical or legal or taxes, I am a little confronted, but we work through it, you know? And,
Right.
and,
And they can be very, very nice, right?
Yeah.
They can be very, very nice.
But you come out and you need a drink. I'm just saying. You know what time of day it is. You're like,
Oh, goodness.
Where is that office?
well, it depends where you live. But the one I went to is up, you go by Marché Libération, and then you go up another street, and there's that bizarre church, that's Jeanne d'Arc church, that white one, and you go right down the street there. And they're closed on Tuesdays, only by appointment, but you can't make an appointment. I didn't understand it, but, you know, like if certain people can make
Very
appointments,
convoluted,
I
as
couldn't,
usual.
But, yeah, but don't go on the Monday after 4-day holiday, I'll just say that, you know. But I mean, it's very organized. Some guy comes by
Right.
and gives you like a ticket, you know, like your number so-and-so, and then you go in and, I don't know.
And you guys have had good experiences with the medical system here?
Hallelujah.
Right, amazing, right? Yeah, it just shocks me. I don't know if you guys read my newsletter from last Monday, yeah. Because actually friends who live here part of the time and live in Seattle the rest of the time had written me an email saying, if you had something serious happen to you medically, would you go back to the States? And I just said, absolutely not. That is the last place I would think about going. Thank you both. Bye. So here's the deal. If there's no more questions, meet each other, talk with each other, take as long as you like. You can stay as long as you like. Just don't forget to pay on your way out on the right. Okay? If you need the restrooms, they're fabulous. They're down here and downstairs. And we are back here on May 26th. Is that right? Is that the fourth Thursday? Quick.
So there's no April.
No. Okay, May 25th. They're not listening. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you.